Good afternoon. So we're doing our weekly briefing a day early today in recognition of the official holiday tomorrow leading up to the 4th. So I want to welcome our Deputy Mayor Sharon Owens, our Chief of Fire Mike Mons, and acknowledge the council for allowing us to use the chambers for our weekly briefings. Also want to acknowledge our Parks Commissioner, Julie LaFavis, in attendance. Thanks for joining us, Julie. Agenda for the briefing, we are, as we always do, provide a quick update on COVID-19, go over the data, the fiscal and operating impact. We will review our weekly CompStat report for crime statistics. Deputy Mayor will provide an update on our efforts around police reform. Chief Mons is going to talk about fireworks enforcement and safety, and we will finish with an update on the Syracuse Swims on fundraising campaign. So looking at the COVID numbers, they look pretty good. We have, as of July 1st, just over 1,600 cases in the city of Syracuse total. That's up 61 cases over the past week, and that's a 4% increase. Contrast that with we're nearing 1,200 recoveries in the city, 1,197. That's up 96 over the past week, and that's a 8.7% increase. So 8.7% increase in recoveries versus a 4% increase in cases. So recoveries basically doubling new cases. That's a good thing, and we want to see that continue. I want to remind everyone that testing will continue today at the Syracuse Community Health Center. We'll take the day off tomorrow, and we'll be back up on Saturday until 5 p.m. We've talked before about the state's early warning monitoring system, so we're going to take a quick look at that. Before we do, just an update. We are in phase 4 of the reopening process right now. As of, I believe, yesterday, we have 572 businesses in the city of Syracuse that have affirmed as part of the reopening process. That's 45 new in the city over the past week. Total countywide is 1,877. So we're continuing to get new businesses affirming and reopening. Again, we monitor this early warning dashboard regularly. It's part of our process with the daily regional control group calls. The one that you're looking at is showing the severity of infections, which is measured by hospitalizations. Our numbers are still well below where they were 4 to 6 weeks ago. We did see a slight uptick over the past week, but no major change. So we still feel good about where we are on infections and hospitalizations. Also on the early warning monitoring dashboard, we're always looking at new cases. So they've really stayed steady over the past 10 days. These are positive signs, especially the further we get out from some significant increases in gathering, looking at Memorial Day, as we've gone from phase 2 to 3 to 4, and of course some of the protest activity that's been happening in recent weeks. We haven't seen any significant uptick in cases as a result of any of that activity, so we're really pleased about that. But again, as I've said from the beginning, this is not the time to let our guard down. Look no further than the rest of the country. We have a lot of states where we're seeing significant spikes, significant increases. Not coincidentally, a lot of states that did let their guard down and reopened a lot faster than we did in New York State. So again, the reason we're in the position we are now is because we've done it the right way. It's been a data-driven process. People are continuing to use precaution, continue to wear your masks, continue to distance, and as long as we do, we will hopefully be able to continue on the progress we're making and not move backwards, which is again what we're seeing in other communities. Operationally, just a quick update on city and school tax bills for the 2020-2021 period. We mailed out the tax bills to property owners at the end of June, and they are due this month, during the month of July. We've received a number of questions given the fact that City Hall still is not open to the public about how people can pay their tax bills. We appreciate those questions and we appreciate those payments. Just a reminder, there's 3 options for paying your taxes. You can do it by mail, you can do it online, and you can do it via our new drop box on the side of City Hall. It's on the Market Street side. You can make payments in cash and check and money order. We can't make change, obviously, but again, another option to get your taxes paid. Any questions, people can email citypayments@seargov.net or call 315-448-8310. Again, we very much appreciate people, especially in these difficult times, continuing to pay their taxes so we can continue to provide the essential services that we all need. On the topic of taxes, I do want to just remind everyone of the mounting fiscal impact being caused by COVID-19. So we ended our fiscal year yesterday. We are now in a new fiscal year. As a reminder, our mid-year budget projection, we were projecting a $1.5 million surplus. At this point, just on the revenue side, we're looking at about $8 to $10 million shortfall in revenue. We haven't, we don't know what our costs look like yet, so we're a little early to project an official deficit number, but we are projecting about $8 to $10 million in revenue shortfall. And that doesn't account for the more than $12 million that was withheld by New York State this week in their state aid payment. So we were scheduled to receive nearly $62 million in our state aid payment. We received a little over $49 million. So if right now the state is characterizing that as a withholding, we certainly hope that continues to be the case, because if at any point that becomes a cut, that could expand our revenue shortfall to $20 to $22 million, a significant difference. So again, hoping that that does not happen. As a reminder, these revenue shortfalls are already having impacts on city operations. We still have more than 100 city workers on temporary unpaid leave. We've talked a lot about pools, and as a reminder, we're going to have to keep a number of pools closed over the course of the summer, especially as we're just about to head into another heat wave. And as we talked about yesterday, we did have to cancel all remaining permitting for large public festivals and other events in the city. And again, that's a combination of, we continue to have health concerns around those large gatherings, but that is as much related to our operational limitations due to the staff that we've placed on temporary unpaid leave. So that brings us back to the federal government. We all know in order for local municipalities and states to get relief, we need the federal government to act. I hate to see what's happening in other parts of the country where the pandemic conditions are worsening, but I'm hopeful that opens up the eyes to our state representatives of how serious this situation is. And this pandemic does not differentiate between red states and blue states. This virus is impacting all of us, and we need help. I've talked about some of the contingency spending planning work that we've done. That continues to carry on. Just to give everyone an idea of some of the other considerations beyond the temporary leave placements that we've already done. We are actively planning for an early retirement program to offer to city employees. We are looking at additional furloughs or, again, temporary unpaid leave placements. Of course, we are eventually going to have to look at expense cuts, service reductions, facility closures, and ultimately layoffs. Unfortunately, all of this is still very much on the table. The way in which we're planning it is to do it in phases, obviously keeping the most severe decisions, holding those off as long as possible. But we think that these phases, these steps, are going to need to take place in lieu of federal aid over the next 90 days. And we think we will begin to have to undertake some of these next phases this month in July. So again, the stakes are extremely high. We hear from our federal representatives. They're giving us some hope that some action could be taken this month, and it can't happen soon enough. We're already seeing the impacts of these difficult decisions, and it's one thing for me to say difficult decisions. It's another thing to actually make them. And an example being yesterday, I think when we heard from some of the folks that are impacted by the events being canceled, some of them may have been, or some of our constituents may have been surprised by that. But that's what I mean when I say difficult decisions. These, and they're only going to get harder. So again, calling on our federal government representatives to step up and to deliver the critical financial aid needed to allow us to continue to deliver the services that our constituents deserve, especially those essential services that have helped us through the pandemic. As we do every week, just a quick update on the census. The self-response rate continues to slow down, which is frustrating. We're at 49.1% self-response rate as of the end of June. That's up just from 49%. We have to do better. We are still keeping pace with our upstate counterparts. Buffalo's at 49.3, Rochester's at 47.4, Albany's at 49.5. We're headed into a holiday weekend. Hopefully folks will have some little extra time on their hands. Just set aside half an hour, get on the census website, fill it out. It will help all of us. It's safe, it's easy, and again, as we're looking to recover from this pandemic, making sure that we have a complete and accurate count in the census is absolutely going to help all of us to recover. And we are continuing to lag behind the statewide response. We know we have hard to count populations in the city. We need to figure out ways to make sure that they're counted. The stakes are extremely high. Also, we're going to look at our CompStat crime report as we do every week. A reminder that these reports are listed on the SyracusePolice.org website. Before I get into the numbers, I just want to acknowledge some news that came out this morning. That there were 3 arrests made and charges filed today related to the shootings 2 weeks ago on the near west side at Performance Park. This is a really important step in finding justice for Chariel Osorio, who was laid to rest yesterday. We're not done, but I want to commend the Syracuse Police Department for their hard work, especially our SPD investigators who continue to do an outstanding job holding people accountable for committing heinous acts of violence in our community. And for those, again, that are participating in that violence or considering participating, please know that if you do, we will hold you accountable. And the SPD has an extremely good track record of doing that. And again, we're not done on the event 2 weeks ago. There's more to come there. On the numbers, looking at our overall Part 1 crime, the good news is despite some of these terrible acts of violence in recent weeks, we still are below our Part 1 crime total last year. We're 7% below where we were this time last year. Unfortunately, last week we were 9% below, so that number is not headed in the right direction. And if you dig down a little bit deeper, it's not a surprise what's impacting that number. It's violent crime. So we're actually basically where we were at this time last year in violent crime. This year we have 568 Part 1 violent crimes, and last year at this time we were at 570. So basically flat. We need to do better than that. Good news is on property crime, we're at solid 9% below. If you're following the numbers weekly, one of the ones that jumped over the past week is our aggravated assault. So again, something to keep an eye on, and we'll continue to share that information, and folks can continue to access it on SyracusePolice.org's website. I mentioned our ongoing police reform efforts and our engagement with a number of the local organizations and individuals that have been calling for that reform, and I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Mayor Owens to give us a quick update on our efforts and on our meeting this evening. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Updates on where we're moving forward. The mayor has tasked me again with the honor of spearheading our efforts with Syracuse police reform. We have convened an internal group to begin to look at the 16 items of the executive order, how they will be implemented, time frames around that. We'll be meeting on a weekly basis. We had our first meeting yesterday to lay the groundwork for how we can hold ourselves accountable and moving that path forward. Another huge part of our police reform will be tonight for the People's Agenda for Police Reform. Designees from the 14 organizations will be here in the council this evening, and they will be addressing myself, the mayor, the chief, the Common Council president, the superintendent, and the school board president. It will be live streamed and recorded, so people will be able to watch it live or go to our city site, our city website, and to our YouTube page to take a look at it later. I have been in communication with the organizers. We absolutely are coming to the table to hear from them and to talk, have a discussion around their items and where we go from here around the demands that they presented. Our community, as you can see, has been fully engaged in this conversation and will continue to be, as will we. We also will be laying out the foundation for how we will meet the governor's executive order and working with the council to create our strategic plan for police reform that has to be approved by our local governance body, the Syracuse Common Council. So we will begin to also lay the foundation for how we'll be moving forward on that in the near future.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. More to come this evening. Again, you can watch it live streamed on the City of Syracuse YouTube page. As we head into the weekend, a few final notes. It's going to be hot. We've already had to deal with some really hot weather. It looks like it's going to continue to be really warm over the next 10 days or so at or around 90 degrees. I want to encourage everyone to take care of each other. While we don't have our pools open yet, we do have a number of our misters and water features in our parks, so please get out and take advantage of those if you need to cool off. I want to make sure that everyone keeps an eye out for pets. I want to remind everyone that Adrian's Law is in effect, and for those of you that may not be familiar, Adrian's Law allows dog control officers to ticket anyone that leaves a dog tethered outside in temperatures above 90 degrees for longer than 2 hours, and sooner if the pets are in distress. That can result in a maximum of 15 days in jail, a cash fine, and or immediate seizure of the dog. So we need to take care of ourselves, and we also need to take care of our pets. Something that impacts both ourselves and our pets, fireworks, something we've talked a lot about. It's been a really challenging spring and summer for fireworks, not just here in Syracuse, across the nation. And of course, as we're heading into the holiday weekend, we have serious concerns about the use of illegal fireworks. We will continue to have our dedicated patrol from the police department out enforcing the use of illegal fireworks. We do continue to make good progress on that enforcement. We're up to 8 seizures of illegal fireworks now and 16 arrests in the form of appearance tickets. We had a community meeting last week, or earlier this week actually, with nearly 80 residents who participated in that public meeting. So we know that this is an area of importance for city residents, and it's not one particular neighborhood. It's across the city and beyond the city as well. We've heard from a lot of suburban constituents and municipalities that are having the same problems and looking to us to help guide them towards solutions. One other partner that I want to recognize, the New York State, and specifically the New York State Troopers. Back when we started to focus on this issue, we reached out to the troopers and asked them for help. We know that a lot of these fireworks are coming illegally across the border from Pennsylvania, and we know that historically the troopers have helped with enforcement. So to their credit and to the credit of Governor Cuomo, they have stepped up enforcement themselves. I saw an email come through yesterday that they had a pretty good seizure and made arrests related to activity in Syracuse, so certainly appreciative of that. Also, we did publish a fact sheet on fireworks, which is available on our website. It is a confusing issue between what's legal, what's illegal, what's safe. And on that note, one of our great partners in helping us with community education and also enforcement is the Syracuse Fire Department. So I'm going to ask Chief Mons to talk about safety headed into the weekend. Chief Mons.
Thank you, Mayor Walsh. My name is Michael Mons. I'm the fire chief, and I'm going to be discussing some topics regarding fireworks. This year, 4th of July holiday will be different for many of our residents, with many people celebrating from home due to the social distancing restrictions that are still in place to help stop the spread of COVID-19. I certainly understand how difficult it is to not be able to take your family to see the large professional fireworks displays that we all are used to enjoying, and I understand how this leads to the desire to light your own fireworks at home. But all too often, these types of household celebrations can end up with a trip to the hospital room. On average across our nation, 180 people go to the emergency room every day with firework-related injuries in the month surrounding the 4th of July weekend, and that is approximately June 21st to July 21st. Last year, over 10,000 people were injured by fireworks. So all fireworks are very dangerous. They cause burns and eye injuries and many other injuries to your body. That is why there is a huge need for safety awareness regarding fireworks now more than ever. Anyone who is listening to this message and plans to use fireworks this year, especially this weekend, should follow some simple safety tips to help prevent injuries, prevent possible deaths, and to also reduce property damage. My safety tips are as follows. Never use illegal fireworks. And I know there's always a question as to what are the illegal fireworks. And that would be any device that is an aerial device that emits a booming noise is considered a firework and it is illegal. These include M80s, bottle rockets, spray rockets, cherry bombs, mortars, Roman candles. So pretty much the very loud fireworks that we hear every night that irritate most of our neighborhoods, those are the illegal fireworks. And that leads into the next question, what are the legal fireworks that are allowed? And these are categorized as sparkling devices, and they are used on the ground or wooden handheld sparklers that produce color sparks, colored flame, audible crackling or whistling noise, and produce small amounts of smoke. Some examples of legal sparkling devices include ground-based cylinder-shaped fountains, ground-based cone fountains, wooden sparklers, and party poppers and snappers. These legal fireworks do not rise into the air, they do not fire inserts or projectiles into the air, and they do not explode. My next few safety tips are to never allow children to play with fireworks. Children should not be using sparklers. We preach to our children all the time never to play with matches, nor do we ever give them candles, so we really shouldn't be giving them fireworks. Let the adults handle the legal fireworks and let the children be spectators. Parents don't realize that young children suffer injuries from innocent-looking sparklers which burn at temperatures of about 2,000 degrees, and that is hot enough to burn some metals and melt some metals. Also, avoid buying fireworks that are packaged in brown paper because this is often a sign that fireworks were made for professional displays and that could easily pose an extreme danger to consumers who they weren't intended to actually get. If you are going to light legal fireworks, always wear protective glasses when you're setting off these fireworks. Never place any part of your body directly over a firework device when lighting the fuse. Back up to a safe distance immediately after lighting any type of firework. Never point or throw fireworks at any other person. Keep a bucket of water or a garden hose handy in case a fire or any other mishap. Light fireworks one at a time, then move back quickly. If a firework does not go off on your first attempt, do not try to relight it, as this frequently causes serious burn injuries. After fireworks are completely burned, or if a firework did not light on your first attempt, douse this device with plenty of water from a bucket or hose before discarding it to prevent a trash fire. Never carry fireworks in your pocket or shoot them off of a metal or a glass container. Make sure everyone is a safe distance away before you begin lighting any fireworks, and keep flammable materials a distance of 10 to 15 feet away from anywhere from using these fireworks. I think this past month we've been very fortunate, unfortunate, it could be fortunate or unfortunate, but we were on pace to set the record for the least amount of rain for June, which that means our city is very dry. So any types of fireworks can easily set off a grass fire or any other type of fire. I recognize the temptation to set off fireworks, but I must again emphasize that in addition to being dangerous in some cases, illegal fireworks or legal, they can start fires and cause severe property damage. So far this year, we have had 21 related firework calls that we have responded to. And these types of calls, some of them are caused by improperly disposing the containers that the fireworks come in. Sometimes they come in cardboard boxes, which are easily to catch fire. Other types of fires we've had are from other people aiming fireworks at other citizens and trying to play around and shoot fireworks at them. So those end up landing on the grass and causing a grass fire. And we've also had instances of fireworks set off inside of a building, activating the fire alarm system. So under no circumstances shall any fireworks be lit inside of a building. Real quick, just to go back to a couple points of safety. Last year, 10,000 people were injured by fireworks. 57% of those people were injured with burns. People were most likely to hurt their hands and fingers with these burns more than any other part of their body. So if you're around somebody this weekend that is suffering an injury from fireworks, please call 911. If you're around somebody that is burned, run the affected area that is burned of the body under cool, not cold water for approximately 10 minutes. Once it is cooled, cover the area in moist, sterile dressings to prevent any types of infection. And in closing today, I know and I understand it's hard to entertain children at some times, and it can be very difficult. So I would like to just suggest a few safe alternatives of besides lighting fireworks, and that is providing your children with glow sticks, playing with silly string, making a mix of bubbles that you can buy different types of glow-in-the-dark paint to make bubbles that actually glow in the dark at night. And you could also make rocket confetti poppers that are safe and they're easy to make. Directions on how to make these and other safe alternatives are on the Syracuse Fire Department Facebook page. So that's all I have regarding fireworks, and I hope everybody has a safe weekend.
Great. Thanks, Chief. Chief's going to be doing demonstrations with silly string and glow-in-the-dark bubbles. At some point in the future, we'll keep everybody posted. As a parent, I appreciate those suggestions, Chief. No, it really is a matter of safety, and we want everybody to have fun and be safe this weekend and beyond. Which leads me to the last formal component of our agenda, which is to circle back on something that we announced last week. We've talked about the impact of the financial impact of COVID-19 and how that's impacted our operations. One of the areas I mentioned, Commissioner LaFave is here from Parks, where that was immediately impacted was our pools. So we made a decision last week that we were going to commit to opening up 2 of our 8 pools, which we thought we could do responsibly from a financial perspective. But I had asked Parks to put together a plan for opening 4 pools. And that led to us launching our Syracuse Swims On fundraising campaign. We did that in partnership with the Syracuse Parks Conservancy, and we set an ambitious goal to raise $100,000 to open up 2 additional pools over the course of the ensuing week. So we're 6 days into that campaign. Again, we had committed to opening up the pools at Schiller and Kirk Parks on the north and south sides respectively. We had identified our 2 additional pools to open if we achieved our fundraising goal, those being Thorndon on the east side and Onondaga on the southwest side. And it's not really a secret at this point because I know a lot of people have been keeping a close eye on our GoFundMe page. But I am thrilled to report that we have exceeded our fundraising goal in less than a week. At last check, we were more than $5,000 over our $100,000 goal. I am so impressed, so appreciative of our community. One thing that I love about Syracuse is we rally like no one else. And when you set a goal and it's for a good cause, this community and this city steps up time and time again. And that's exactly what happened over the past 6 days. It was a lot of fun keeping an eye on that GoFundMe page and just watching that number continue to grow. And we had so many people step up to help us. We had very small donations. We had very large donations. I want to thank every single one of those donors, regardless of the size of your donation. I do want to single out a few donors. The Community Foundation, who donated $5,000, but did it in the form of a 24-hour match, which we opened yesterday. That generated the last big push that got us over the finish line, as did two major corporate donors, National Grid and Key Bank, that stepped up. But again, we had hundreds of donors at every different level, people sharing wonderful memories and experiences of their time at our pools growing up, whether it was swimming and having fun with their friends. Many people, it was their first jobs working as lifeguards. And again, at a time when we all need a feel-good story, we sure have one here. And because of everyone's generosity in our community, we open up the first two pools on July 16th, again, Kirk and Schiller, and July 23rd, we are now scheduled to open up Thorndon and Onondaga. So the goal was to have a pool open in each quadrant. It's certainly not the same as having all eight open, but to be able to give relief to our young people and our families in the city, many of whom our pools are the highlight of their summer, is just wonderful. And it's just a testament to the caring community and the resilient community that we live in. And I want to thank everybody involved in making that happen. On a related note, before we open it up for questions, another real good feel-good moment for us was yesterday, where we cut the ribbon on the new extension of our Onondaga Creek Walk. I am a big fan of our creek walk, but this next section, for anybody that isn't familiar, is just amazing. It's 2.2 miles, so when you add that to the existing part of the creek walk, we're I think over 5 miles now, extending from Kirk Park all the way to Onondaga Lake. And the section from Armory Square down to Kirk Park, the new section, is just absolutely beautiful. You see parts of the creek that people have never seen before. The landscaping is gorgeous. Some of the historic architecture along the way is beautiful. And at a time when more people are out using our parks and public spaces, the timing couldn't be better for this amazing new amenity. So I encourage everyone to get out and to get on their bikes, put on their running shoes, and go out and check out the new creek walk. It's great. So, over the past couple days, in spite of some significant challenges that we are all facing, a couple things that we should really feel good about. With that, I will open it up for questions. And again, we have the microphone in the back. And I also, again, just want to thank Commissioner Lefebvre and her team at Parks for all of their hard work on our pools. It was no minor undertaking. Questions?
Mayor Walsh, in regards to the Rye Day shooting arrests, you said multiple times we aren't done. Can you expand on that? What do you mean by that?
The investigation is ongoing, and those arrests were a significant step forward, but it's my understanding there are other suspects, and that investigation is ongoing.
What general message do you have for the community when it comes to violence? This past weekend, we again saw another violent weekend. What message do you have for the community?
We cannot accept this level of violence in our community. It's not new, and it's not unique to Syracuse. And I think sometimes those two facts tend to numb some of us to the effects of the violence. But we cannot allow ourselves to become numb to it. We have people, especially young people, losing their lives. We have families that are traumatized. We have others that are involved and witness to these acts that are incurring trauma that they will carry with them the rest of their lives. And it only will contribute to future problems. Whether or not it impacts you directly, it has an impact on all of us in the community, and we need to remain vigilant. And those, again, that are committing these acts of violence or considering committing these acts of violence need look no further than SPD's track record on holding people accountable for these acts of violence. The SPD is extremely good at holding people accountable, tracking down people that are pulling the triggers, and today's arrests were just another example of that. It's not worth it. There are other options, there are other paths. We understand that people are going through difficult times. They may have incurred trauma themselves during their lives that put them at increased risk for getting involved in acts that may lead to violence. There are other ways, and we as a community and as a city government stand ready to help anyone deal with their challenges, so they don't have to turn to violence. It is taking an incalculable toll on our community that is unsustainable and unnatural, and we are going to do everything we can to stop it. And again, law enforcement, SPD, by the time they're involved, more often than not, it's too late. We need to start way ahead and be addressing many of the issues that we're going to be talking about in this room later tonight: systemic racism, other issues that are impacting our young people before they even have a chance, education, economic opportunity. We need to look at the big picture here. It's not just about law enforcement, but again, for those that do commit these acts, they're going to be held accountable.
Thank you.
Yeah, looking at the fiscal shortcomings, the revenue shortfall, we're headed to arbitration with the police union over the contract. I know arbitrators tend to look at the city's ability to pay when they make a decision. What impact do you think this financial situation is going to have on the arbitration and the contract?
Well, Chris, I've never gone through the arbitration process, so I can't say for certain. But based on our conversations, we've tried to be open and transparent with the police department and specifically the PBA that we are in a much different fiscal position now than we were when we initially came to agreement on that contract. Arbitration does limit our options, but they do. It is my understanding that ability to pay is among the considerations. So I think. Our goal is to go into arbitration in a way that ultimately gets to a fair outcome. But depending on what happens at the federal level with funding, that inevitably will impact what that contract looks like, at least from our perspective. But again, I think that we have to see how the process goes.
On the state money that didn't come, you said it's been withheld. Do you have any assurances that it's coming, or how confident are you that it's just a withholding and not a cancellation?
I have no assurances that the remaining funding is coming, other than the fact that it was characterized as a withholding as opposed to a cut. I'm not holding my breath. I'm very concerned about it. Again, the state is in a very similar position that we are. We're all looking to the federal government to step in and to help us through this unprecedented crisis. So, again, I will take the state at their word that it's a withholding and not a cut. But until I see that payment made, I'm not going to rest easy.
I just got one last question for the chief. Did you say there were fireworks set off inside a building?
Yes, we've had 3 alarms, I believe, that resulted from people setting off fireworks inside of the building. The fire didn't spread. We were able to ventilate the smoke out of the building and make sure everything is safe, but we have had those issues in the city so far this year.
Now, are those homes, or are they businesses,
they were
vacant buildings? Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
you're welcome.
For the mayor, have you spoken with anyone from SPD to see if they have plans to actually crack down on any sort of gatherings or parties that may come as a result of July 4th or, any other reason this weekend?
Based on my conversations with SPD, they intend to continue being consistent in how we address public gatherings that are in violation of the executive order, which is to respond to every call and to educate and inform those that are involved that they are in fact in violation of the order. So before we get to that point, I will use this as another opportunity to remind people that right now, and I understand sometimes it's hard keeping track of the rules. Right now, any gathering over 50 people is in violation of the executive order. I understand it's a holiday weekend. People want to get together and have fun, but especially looking around at what's happening throughout the rest of the country now, now is not the time to get together. We all have to continue to make sacrifices for the greater good, and what we've seen is by doing that, we are in a better position now than a lot of other communities. But the minute we let our guard down, this virus has shown time and time again that we'll pay dearly for it. So I ask everyone to be responsible, stay in compliance with that executive order, take care of each other, and again, SPD will continue to respond in a way that's consistent with not only how they've responded, but how other local law enforcement agencies have responded to these incidents.
So they won't necessarily break up gatherings of over 50 people.
Well, again, the goal certainly is to disperse the gathering. It's how they go about doing that, and what we've said from the beginning is we don't have any intention of criminalizing the pandemic or putting our officers or our constituents in harm's way by using force or aggressively enforcing that order. But absolutely, the goal and the intent on every one of those calls is to get that gathering to disperse. But we're trying to do it in a safe and respectful way.
And then last question on a different topic. Do you have any update as to whether or not you're close to a decision on what will happen with the Columbus statue?
So related to the issue of Columbus, I announced, I think it was last week, that we are forming an action group. This is an outgrowth of the dialogue circles that we've had going now for the past couple of years. The purpose of that group is to, among other considerations, make final recommendations as to what changes will be made to that to the Columbus Circle area, which will include recommendations as it relates to that statue. I've said that the status quo is not acceptable in Columbus Circle, so there will be changes, but we're going to be consistent with the process that we've laid out as we move towards action. So the next thing that people can expect to hear from me is an update on the members of that action group and the time frame in which we intend to take action.
Thank you.
Hello. So, Mayor, we're finding out that in the shootings happening on the west side, we're finding out that at least 2 opposing gangs were involved in that shooting. What is the city doing right now, whether it's with the Syracuse Police Department or even just community leaders, to make sure that we are lessening this violence and cracking down on gang members, that we obviously know these people are a part of these gangs because they have been identified as 110 gang members?
Mm-hmm. The Syracuse Police Department has a number of ways in which they deal with violent offenders and gang members. They have proactive details that try to identify perpetrators of this violence before they commit more acts of violence. We have partnerships at the state and federal level that assist us in those efforts. So it's a multi-pronged effort that involves investigations and patrol, but they're the same tools that we've used over the years, and I think consistently, whether or not it happens immediately or after a certain amount of time, SPD has a very good track record of holding these individuals accountable. And but we also, as we try to enforce, we do try to give some of these individuals other options, so they can they know that they don't have to necessarily pick up the gun, that there are different ways to do that, and we have really great community partners and partner organizations that help us in that, from SNUG to the trauma response team, and we rely heavily on our community partners to help us in those efforts, because ultimately we want to help people, but sometimes that does involve holding people accountable for what they've done, and again, our track record is that we'll continue to do that.
And do you think there will be, renewed efforts to try and find other solutions if stuff like this keeps happening, shootings every weekend? Is there any renewed efforts to take a look and go back to the drawing board and say, what can we do better to make sure this doesn't happen again?
We are always looking for new models, new programs, new resources. It's an iterative, dynamic process. We certainly are, again, relying on our partners. Deputy Mayor and I are convening our gun violence task force again to check in and to make sure that we are doing everything in our power. But again, what's happening right now, while it is unacceptable, is not new. And again, when you look year over year, we're actually, we're below where we were last year in overall crime, and with violent crime, we're about where we are. So these are not new challenges, but that doesn't take away our sense of urgency to do more and to do better and to try new things. So we're going to continue to do that.
Okay, and I know Chief Buckner's not here right now, so this might be definitely an SPD question, but supposedly there were 6 gang members involved in these shootings. 3, or at least 4, have been charged. Can you tell us anything about the other 2 suspects? Is this a difficult investigation, and are we making progress on those other 2 suspects?
I'm going to defer to the police department in terms of the investigation, and just again note that it is ongoing.
Okay. And just one last thing about the social distancing topic again. Have you had any conversations with Chief Buckner about rethinking the way you handle those situations when you get a social distancing complaint in light of this, or you're going to stick to the status quo as to, responding, informing them, and then walking away, and if it doesn't change, going back again and doing the same thing?
Yeah, I think we are always open to revisiting our policies and practices. We've certainly had conversations about the specific incident that happened on the west side. And again, had we known then what we know now, might we have done things differently? Perhaps. We never are satisfied or get comfortable with the status quo. But again, based on our conversations and based on what we've seen from responding to those calls, more often than not, that approach has been effective. But we acknowledge it isn't always, and continue to be open to other ways to do it. Anything else? Chris?
Police reform question. One of the things outlined in the department's annual report this year was they were going to develop a new early warning system for problematic officers. Do either, for the deputy mayor or the mayor, do either of you know the status of that new program and whether it's in place yet?
We see that being part of our internal process for peeling back the onion to determine how we're going to move forward on that initiative, body-worn camera deployment, multiple areas. So more to come on that.
But that is still a goal that the department is trying to achieve this year, is to have that new warning system in place?
That is a priority of Chief Buckner. The question is how we're going to get there and in what time frame.
Okay. Well, listen, everyone have a happy and safe 4th of July holiday weekend. Take care.